which I
Yeah.
call the El Pape, the Pope. But yeah,
Always.
you mentioned Robert Wares, and I think one
Oh,
of the big strength of Brunswick is the quality of the management team and the
absolutely.
quality of the technical team,
Yeah.
and put that all together, and the fact that they've developed a recipe where they're able to quickly look at areas, say this is of interest,
Yes.
send a crack commando team there, first assessment. If there's something interesting, they're able to go back there,
Yes.
and they've got this mythology where they're able to quickly say, hey, this is worthwhile to pursue. And if it's not, they close the door and they go into
Yeah,
do something else, which
exactly.
I think that's how you have to do exploration.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Between Plays Stock Market Strategies. Today we have with us Mr. Eric Lemieux. He's back again. How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing fine. Thank you very much, Albert. How about you?
I am doing very fine. Thank you very much. It's beautiful outside. I mean, it's starting to get warmer. Some vitamin D, E, whatever, FG. I mean, it just feels great. Yeah, it helps. I mean, the gray winters, it's just too much. It's just too
Yeah, well,
much,
you
right?
look very relaxed. You look like a guy who's taking it easy, has no issues in life. You look like you just woke up, my friend. That's nice. Nice lifestyle you have.
Well,
I'm teasing you. I'm teasing you.
well, it's all this over here. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No, but honestly, it's take a little step back, work with the networks, see what's going on, evaluate things, go to bed a little bit early. That's been a little bit of the good medicine, is just to get to bed a little bit earlier. So, you
Well,
know,
what helps a lot is, with spring come, it's the daylight hours we have, and I think that's so much
yeah,
enjoyable to see the sunlight. The sun rises up earlier, goes to bed later, and that
yes,
sunlight helps a lot. So yes, I agree with you that
so much.
spring is a harbinger of more pleasures
Oh
and
yeah.
more enjoyable times indeed.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. As soon as that sun starts coming out and you can actually go outside and enjoy like a walk or a bike ride, it's like, oh, thank God. All
Yeah.
right, so let's get started. Before we get started, of course, everybody out there, don't forget like and subscribe. Very important. All right. So, Eric, I mean, have you seen the winter drilling results? Have you taken a good look? I mean, I know you have because I've seen, some of your articles are out there. So everybody, that's watching, Eric Lemieux, okay, LinkedIn, go over there and go check out all of his articles. And I mean, at first glance, as a, layman's term, retail investor, I like what I saw. I like what I'm seeing. And there's still more results to come. And there's a whole summer drilling program. But let's just stick to what, I have seen. To me, this looks really good. We're going in the right direction. And it's just the beginning. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, we had the winter drill program that just been completed, and Brunswick has been disclosing results, and the results, yes, indeed, some very good hits. I appreciate the fact that MR6, we can see that it is growing. It's still wide open to the northeast, to the southwest. And what tickled me a little bit is that new MR8 zone to the northeast of MR6 on the other side of the lake, if you want.
Yeah.
That one is newly defined, and again, it's still open. So we're very much in the early stage of defining what's there. And when you can have some good intersections in terms of the widths and some good grades in terms of the LE20, that's positive. So it's to me, it's this is the second phase of drilling.
Yes.
We still have some results to come out, but it looks interesting. And I'm enthusiastic that they'll re-drill in the summer, probably after doing some field work, which I think, when we were talking about earlier on, Mirage less than a year ago did not really exist.
True.
And so we're just really at the start. And so summer prospecting, geological assessments of potential, what is even more there will be very interesting. And so I think the combination of having the drill results, having that third dimension, an idea of what's going on at depth, how this maybe arranges itself in terms of geometrics, it will be interesting to see how this pans out. But I think there's more to come, and that will be interesting to follow.
I was now naturally in our Telegram community. Uh, we're always talking about lithium and everything that's out there. I don't know. Recently, there's been a whole GameStop and AMC, especially GameStop, just went right through the roof because after a 2 year hiatus with Roaring Kitty, not tweeting anything. I mean, this guy comes back, puts out like some 13 tweets in a row, some pretty awesome tweets. I mean, he took some videos out there and he created some stuff, and it's pretty cool. And it just woke up the retail investor world, and they came back, and we could see that the retail investor is still alive out there. um Now the reason why I bring that up is because naturally I was watching Miners Deck, and when you looked at from the first results, I mean, if you go back, like you're saying, 2 years ago, whatever, Brunswick wasn't even on Miners Deck. Then all of a sudden, after the first drill results, they're like they were put in the last place there, and then they started hitting more. And then on Miners Deck, you could see that they're coming up within the lithium, within the lithium bracket of these companies out here in Canada, stuff like that, and or on the TSX, put it that way. And then all of a sudden, now they were something like in fourth or fifth underneath like PMET being the top. But after these results, I mean, I'm just thinking, are they like going to be just under PMET? I mean, like, at what stage are they at now? And if so, I mean, seems to me to be a completely undervalued stock. I mean, do you have any kind of thoughts on that?
Well, we're still very early in the process. I mean, we've had two phases of drilling, one summer prospecting program. So it's still very early. And, yes, Corvette, they started working on that 92 resource, I believe, is in 2017. So it's been 7 years. You
That's
look at
true.
Winsom, it's been now a year and a half. So I would say that Mirage is still very early on in the infancy. But as I said earlier on, there's stuff that are still very much wide open,
Yeah,
and they've just been working on one little part of their property, and who knows what's going on in other parts of that garage property.
true.
And so ballpark figure right now, it's hard for me to put a number, but as I was telling earlier on, you can make maybe visual comparisons with other projects in the James Bay, and one of them is Adina Winsome.
Okay.
When I look at the footprint, I think Mirage now has perhaps that sort of footprint as it is known right now,
Okay.
and it's still very much wide open. So, who knows ultimately what this can be. As
Okay.
I was saying, for me,
Yeah.
the critical element for the James Bay is the infrastructure.
Okay. Infrastructure.
And hopefully, um, things will progress in a positive way um, in the next few years. But I think if we see what Winsome, with their option to acquire the Renard mine, that might provide a north-south route directly towards Chibougamau with the 167 extension. And if the Cree with the Grande Alliance um, are very favorable to complete the road towards the Trans-Tega, I think that will be win-win for the James Bay lithium potential lithium district. And
Yeah.
so it will be a great exit for Adina. It will be a great exit for Mirage. And I think you can foresee central sort of access to bring the concentrate towards the either the ports on the St. Lawrence and then ship it anywhere in the world, or effectively for Quebec, either in the Saguenay area or in the Bécancour, which we know now are building these facilities for transforming and
Yeah.
eventually having end users in terms of the batteries
Well,
production.
I mean, just to go back, and then I'll jump on the infrastructure again. Just to go back, when we look at the way the lithium is dispersed here, the way how we see Mirage, I mean, we got some nice grades even at surface level. Now, in terms of mining, let's just say, I mean, it being so close to surface, stuff like that, I mean, this must be more economical than something that's extremely deep and you have to go get it and stuff like that. I mean, is this looking more like a green bush, like Australian type company, like the way it's going out, the structure of it, the way it's working out? I mean, we have a lot of on surface and some really good grades. I mean, anything above 1% is a winner in the hard rock. So, I mean, what do you think about that?
Hard for me to pronounce myself in a sense that we're still very early on,
It's
and a lot
early.
of the lithium projects in the James Bay are sub-outcropping. Then the idea here is effectively the dip of the pegmatite swarms.
Okay.
And if you do have a rather shallow dip,
Okay.
then you can effectively foresee a low strip ratio. And then it's the width of these pegmatite structures that are going to be important. And so you're going to have 3, 4 very large pegmatite dikes that have a low angle. Yes, effectively for open pit situation, that's what's ideal. And then after that, the next thing you have to look at is the topography. And do you have lakes? I know for Corvette, I know it, some people say, well, you've got a big lake right there. I shouldn't say a big lake, but you do have a lake.
Yeah,
But my
there's a lake
understanding
there.
is that it's maybe not that deep, but when you say mention lake, then you have all the environmental studies that have to be done. Fair enough. But it's case by case. Well, who knows in 15 years from now that effectively we won't find ourselves with a particular situation in James Bay where, yeah, well, because of the infrastructure, we'll be a powerhouse in terms of lithium production
Oh
and
yeah.
supply
Oh yeah.
for feeding North America.
Yeah, because if you look at even where Mirage is, well, that whole area, it's just littered with lithium companies. And the Aussies are really strong in that area too. It's not just these Canadian companies that are saying, "Oh, I'm looking here." No, I mean, Australia has been digging around here for a while because there's a ton load of them, right?
Well, not for a while. I mean, it's this whole lithium resurgence is relatively new. It's less than 2 years,
Yeah,
but the Australians have that experience and they're able
yeah,
to have a good knack of saying, "Hey, this potentially does have similarities with what we have and what we know very well." And so that's why they've been very keen to come up to the James Bay and start putting their fingers there. So hats off to them. I think there's some good expertise and they're able to share and they're able to develop some stuff. But
that's
yeah,
really
when you look
cool.
at it, I mean, the first one, if I'm not mistaken, on the radar screen was Corvette, the CV5, I should say, the Corvette, the Patriot
Yeah,
Battery
battery
Metals
metals. Yeah,
clay, which is about 15 kilometers from the Trans-Tega, which initially, you think, well, it's quite a remote, but now, like I told you, they're building their all-season road to get to the CV5 deposit
yeah, yeah,
from their camp, and that's on the Trans-Tega.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
and
it
the
would be
fact that
good if
you're able to
they.
get
Yeah.
to get
Sorry. Go ahead.
on their deposit by pickup truck eventually is that makes it that, yeah, your location is quite important in that regards.
Oh, that's cool because it looks to me that if we believe that EVs are the future, like I'm just like 2 seconds of a storyline. I've been waiting 2 years, okay, for a Fev. I've probably said it on this show 1,000 times with Killian and stuff like that. 2 years, 2 years. I've been waiting for my hybrid vehicle. Finally got it like about a week and a half ago or something like that. So I texted Killian. I was like, "Oh my god, I finally got it! Finally!" Because I know he has one, and we spoke about it over 2 years ago. That he had one. I was like looking to get one, and how much he loves it, and how much I hope to God love it too. I've been driving it like crazy. My wife, we've been going everywhere. We haven't spent $1 of gas. We have gone everywhere. Kids' school, this work, wherever, shopping, and it's been insane, just incredible. And I was saying to my wife, well, this is perfect because we got about 900 to 1,000 kilometers with this thing between gas and the electric, and we're going to go to Ottawa with it. We're not going to have any fears, any problems. And with its automatic charging that it's got this great recharging capability. Literally drove 32 kilometers and we used 13 kilometers of EV electricity. That's crazy. We're getting more than double just because it's self-charging. And I told my wife, I said, you know what? I'm not keeping my car. I'm going full EV on my car because we got a hybrid. Between the two of us, I doubt we'll ever use gas again. And I'm going to go for one. Naturally, I wish we had an LFMP available. So give us like, 1,000 kilometer range. That would be amazing. But even with a 400 kilometer range for city driving, after driving this one, I don't need anything else than that. I really don't. I could go Laval. I can go anywhere. I could, naturally, if I'm going to go to Morin Heights or I want to go to, places like it, Trois-Rivières, yeah, I'm going to take the hybrid. But anywhere in the greater Montreal area, 400 kilometers is way more than enough, especially if it's self-charging. So when just talking about this, I think, a lot of people, oh, EVs are going to die out, all this kind of stuff. Canada, the distances are so long and so large. Yeah. So get yourself a hybrid, get yourself an EV. You don't need more than that. And which other country has cities that are like 6 hours away from each other, 10 hours away from each other? In most of the world, I mean, we can fit what, France into Quebec, what, 3, 4 times? I mean, whatever. Most countries are small. To get to one place to another is small. My family came from Italy. They couldn't believe, to go between Montreal and Toronto, the distance. And they were freaking out because they're like, you don't see a soul. There's not a house. There's no fruits in the trees. They were freaking out because they're not used to that. They're used to, all these spots, everything is close. So this whole thing about, oh, the distances, I mean, are we being a little bit narcissistic, or in our
Um,
ways of thinking, oh, Canada, or, I mean, because most of the world don't have our geography. They just don't. It's short distance. So I think EV is here to stay. I mean, what do you think on that?
well, I think in part you're right. I'm not 100%, gung ho with both feet,
Yeah, that's fine.
going
That's fine.
full
Yeah, yeah,
EV.
yeah, yeah,
But I think, like I was telling you earlier on, I think for
yeah,
city use, I think an electrical car makes total sense.
yeah.
I prefer probably right now the hybrid concept, which is,
Yes,
you have both of both worlds.
yes,
But as I say, I mean, this technology is evolving. What will pan out eventually? I think what I'd like to see is the government be proactive and cognizant that,
yeah,
you know, the electric vehicle should be used for shorter distances because that makes more sense, as opposed to having, big sedans that can go from, Montreal to Val d'Or on one charge.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, no,
it's
we
nice,
need the
but
infrastructure there for that, for full
exactly. And
EV,
then
for full EV.
we do live in Canada and there's colder weather, and I think, the
Yeah,
full batteries are not 100% always efficient in that regards. But
yeah.
I think it's a question of just
Balancing,
correct balance,
yeah, correct balance.
and putting the incentives in the right pigeonholes. And that's why I
Correct.
think for city users, yes, perhaps there should be an incentive to get smaller vehicles for
Yeah,
just, city use, which would make
yeah,
more sense because it's shorter distance.
yeah,
The whole fleet of commercial transportation, depending on the distances, should probably be more EV,
yeah,
battery oriented.
yeah.
But for some more longer distances, I think we have to just be by de facto be cognizant that we still need the oil, good, gas, and the facilities of going to a
Absolutely.
gas station not too far or on the
Absolutely.
roads.
Well, we
So
don't we don't want to go camping, or we don't want to go like hunting somewhere and then no not have a gas vehicle. That's for sure. Especially if you're going out somewhere, and especially if it's spring or fall, when the temperature started going around 10 degrees and stuff like that. No, not at all. Even in the summertime, you don't want to go, out in the middle of nowhere with a full EV battery. I mean, what if a battery charger is not working somewhere and you were expecting to charge it there? Like,
yeah,
God
and the
forbid.
waiting time sometimes, because there might be a charging station, um, in Gaspé, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of tourists and everybody comes, and you have to just be cognizant that it just doesn't take 5 minutes to fill your electrical reservoir.
No.
And if you've got a crowd that wants to use it,
Yeah.
you're going to have issues.
Yeah.
So that's why I think, just to have this proper balance of saying, okay, look at the electrical vehicle in a municipal sort of context
Yeah.
makes sense. On a
Absolutely.
more interprovincial distance wise, I think it's fair enough to say, that people can
Yeah.
keep perhaps their gas guzzling vehicles, but I for my part say, I think we have to be cognizant that the gas vehicle today is not as dirty as it was back in the 1960s, 1970s,
No,
when we
it's
had
not.
lead gas. I mean, we call now this, we don't have that now, this terminology about
No.
unleaded versus leaded,
That's
but
right. I
I'm the
remember that.
generation.
Remember that back in the day, unleaded and
Exactly.
leaded gas. I remember that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
I
you had to
remember
bring
that.
down your license plate because the
Oh
the
my
access to the tank
God.
was in the center of the car.
Yes. I remember that. I used to have to do that. Yeah. Pull down the back of the license plate and do that. Wow.
And just a
That's
testament to how things have changed, Albert. I mean, we had
yeah.
a it was a Chrysler Newport,
Okay.
which was this was a huge boat and it was yellow, so we called it the big banana.
Okay.
but we were four kids, and we didn't have child seats back then.
Child
Um,
seats, Eric, my sister and I, there was no seatbelts in the back. We said when we were driving back from Toronto, we were upside down looking up at the stars, looking out the back window.
yeah, no, it's just a testament of how things have changed now.
So much in one
Um,
generation.
yeah, and I think things have been improving. It's not always, we
Yeah.
don't live in a perfect world, but I think
No, no.
generally as a society we are improving. And I think
Yes.
if we go with moderation and with balance,
Yeah.
I foresee a good future for the EV industry.
Yeah.
And just to get more on a local scale, I think, as I
Yeah.
was mentioning, getting back to James Bay, well, yeah, I mean, I'm just going to retouch this infrastructure. I
Yeah.
particularly, I'm keen on the fact that, Winsome has an option to acquire the Renard mine infrastructure. I'm an analyst that covered Stornoway with the Renard mine. I find it very sad. I was quoted in the provincial newspaper, Journal de
Okay.
Montréal, about the situation with the Renard mine. But this was, I believe, without saying a world-class operation, it was a well-built mining operation
Yeah.
to spec. But if we are able to reuse this infrastructure for maybe lithium, why not?
Why
And
not? Absolutely.
it will minimize the environmental impact. It will be a reuse of a brownfield project. And if the government can commit to continue that 167 road to the Trans-Tega,
Yeah.
well, this will really serve as a sort of a circular book,
Why not?
and
That'd be great.
that will be good for security purposes.
Yeah.
Don't forget when we have, and God forbid, I hope we don't have forest fires this summer, but when you
Oh
have a
no.
forest fire and you only have one road
No.
access, that's very, very dangerous. But if you can have
Yes.
more than one, it's like an exit. And so to
You're
have more
right.
than one exit is always very important.
Absolutely. I mean, we build our houses that way, right? With a back door to get out. It's true. One exit. That's true. You're right. 100%. Yeah.
And then getting
No.
back to Mirage,
Yeah.
if that road is completed, that 167 extension north of the Trans-Tega, well, Mirage won't be that far. I think, and this is why I'm not up, I got up to speed recently, but I sort of
Yep.
forgot, unfortunately. But I think I calculated about was 28 kilometers to that potential road. And that would give you access. They could go up the Trans-Tega and then towards Radisson, towards the west, but they could also use the 167 and go directly down to Chibougamau. And then from
Oh yeah.
Chibougamau, you've got the railhead. And then who knows eventually with the Grande Alliance and the Plan Nord, if effectively we'll have the train infrastructure. And yes, I get back to this notion that the James Bay could be a world-class lithium district
Oh, I got a
eventually.
few. Yeah, definitely. I got a few things here. I mean, look, the way I'm seeing is like this. I mean, we have the elections that's coming up for, in the United States, for November very soon. And I was talking about that GME and AMC stock going up with Roaring Kitty and stuff like that. I mean, we could be looking at a bull run around the corner, especially if Trump takes it. I mean, look, he's the money guy. He's the Wall Street guy. I mean, there's no denying it. Whether someone likes him, not whatever. That's not what we do here.
I hate Trump.
But,
I can't. Don't
but
talk to me about that guy.
but it doesn't matter because what we're talking about is about money, right? We're not talking about anything else. We're talking about the stock market. We're hoping for a bull run. That's what we're talking about. So
I'm just trying
talk
to. I just did that just to please my mother, which
that, that's hilarious. I love that. All right, I love it. So yeah, that's really cool. But oh my god, that's so funny, Eric. That's crazy. All
it's
right.
it's hard to judge what we're going through. But I think effectively my readings recently was there's maybe a reinterest for speculation, and
Yes. That's all
hopefully
I'm
that will
looking at.
trickle down to the exploration industry,
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think so.
and people will realize that there's some quality exploration plays out there that have been neglected. And if you believe in the commodity infrastructure and you believe that better days are ahead, and I think we're seeing recently now with the price of copper that's sort of regaining a little bit.
Yeah.
I think the whole commodity infrastructure is not necessarily badly positioned. To the contrary, and
No,
so
I
I
don't think it's
think
badly positioned either. I agree with you. Yeah, yeah, it's not badly positioned. It's just that I think there was some retail investor fear. What's going on? Is it being manipulated by China?
yeah,
The
and
stock
Albert,
market is going to probably crash, and
and I'll
you
be
know,
very, very transparent. I mean,
yeah,
we have to make our mea culpa as an industry where in the last 2 years we haven't been performing, maybe the major to the juniors to the intermediaries.
Okay.
We haven't been very performing very well in this sort of reemergence of the commodity prices. I look at the gold majors, they're not reaping full money. To the contrary, I think if we look at the Q1 results, they've been sort of so and so on in general. And so it's
Yeah.
kind of unfortunate. So I think, we can't always stay negative. We can't always stay bad. I
No,
think,
no.
but what I'm saying in terms of the industry as a whole,
Yes,
we've been underperforming. Now, having said that, we can't always stay as underperformers. I think better days are ahead as
I
long as
agree.
we do our homework and we do things correctly. What I
Correct.
would not like to see is sort of these sort of little scandalous or these little scandals here and there. And I think, last week towards the end, we had this Red Pine exploration saga, unfortunately. It's not a huge thing, but again, it just shows you that we still have some bad apples in our industry. And that's why I tell people, investors, do your due diligence and go for the good teams, go for the good people. And if you do have a little red flag somewhere, well, maybe dig a little bit more. And I think what we've seen now in the last week in terms of some of these scandals, it's been the usual suspects a little bit.
Yeah, well,
People
look,
that were
yeah, I
several fingers in
understand.
different
No.
companies, doing
Look,
things, cutting corners here and
flavor of
there.
the day company, whatever, all that kind of stuff. Look, the whoever's been around, because there's been people around in this industry for 15, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And then there's a lot of new players since 2020 because it's just so easy to get onto your, phone, trade, and all this kind of stuff and not be charged anything. But people need to realize they need to look at that. And that's why, one of some of the few last things I want to bring up. Northvolt, we're talking about infrastructure, Quebec and stuff like that. Very important big players. We have a lot of people. Quebec has put in over 15 billion or something like that last year alone into this space, to get this space going.
It's
So
between 10 and 15. So
yeah,
yes,
insane amount of money, insane amount of money. I mean, like, just give me 1% of that. But anyways, but and then you have Northvolt, yeah, so Northvolt there and everything like that, and they're looking to build a whole battery sector and all this kind of stuff because they want everything in this one place. So everything you're saying, I completely agree with you because eventually these things must come. And now talking
they'll
about,
they'll they'll they'll, they'll come,
yep,
but they'll need the feed. And this is where I hope the Quebec government are not necessarily putting the horses ahead of the cart
okay,
in the sense that here you're building these big battery infrastructures
okay,
plant.
okay,
And in theory, in Quebec, we do have the commodities to feed them, but we're still 10 to 15 years back before being able to supply this. Why? Because of all the permitting timeline it takes, um, some elements with the First Nations, some elements with the local communities. So hopefully the Quebec government will be proactive in the sense that if they think or if they say this is our strategy, well, they'll be committed to really sort of permit things to be done quickly in an efficient way. I'm not saying to cut corners,
yeah.
but is it normal that it takes 5 to 6 years to do the permitting process? I'm not too sure about that. Or having two, three, four different levels of government looking at the same thing. I think we need some better streamlining, that's for sure.
Well,
And
definitely some, yeah.
hopefully these mega battery factories will be fed by made in Quebec commodities.
Oh, yeah, no, well, I mean, with
They
everything
have to, but I'm not
geopolitics,
too
it has to
sure.
be like, well, I mean, look, it's like taking a step back. If we just keep on giving everything and saying, China's building everything for us, and then all of a sudden they just decide, 2020 comes, there's a little bit of a problem. We're going to cut this off. We're going to cut that off. I mean, look, I heard that while I was reading stuff that Vietnam now is, increasing in, in what they're be able to produce and pushed out. United States is, you know, it's been a few years. I've been trying to develop Vietnam, but last year was one of the biggest increases that they were able to push some stuff out. But the problem is that they also relying on China for a lot of their stuff. So it's like, oh my God, we need to move away from that situation. But I wanted to go one last thing
Yep.
before we wrap up. Is you were talking about the bad apples, the bad players, and let's bring in, you know, the ones that are working damn hard. Okay, like Killian's gone again to do more networking. It's insane. It's been nonstop drilling, networking. He is so busy. I mean, when we're looking at people, right? When we're looking at, real companies that want to really develop, not the flavor of the day, the true players. There are some out there. I mean, I don't know all the companies out there. So, like, naturally, all the good companies out there don't look at me and go, oh my God, didn't name me. But I mean, you got like First Phosphate. I mean, this guy doesn't stop. You got Killian Charles of Brunswick. He doesn't stop. It's just insane. People need to do the research and they need to find, who are these CEOs? Where's the money going? It's going into the ground. They're
Oh
always
yeah,
doing something. It's
and look at
insane.
the team. Look at the team behind, because
Francois
yes, I
Goulet
mean,
and all these other people, it's nonstop. They're nonstop working.
well, I mean, Killian is a great ambassador. He goes around. He's a good
Bob
president.
Wares.
He's the chairman. But you mentioned Francois Goulet. There's Charles Kodars. There's
Charles
Simon
Corrales.
Hébert, who's the project manager for the James Bay. And after that, I was in Montreal at the beginning of the week, and I met some young geologists, the young wolves, I call them, of Brunswick.
Yeah.
Probably the two fellows that
The
are going
ones
to
out
be
of
going.
McGill and stuff there, those young guys. The
No,
young,
they're
well, the
from
young, the young people. Because there's
they're from Lucam,
oh, you
Metro.
can. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But I was going to say that they're the guys who are going to be going to Greenland for
Oh,
Brunswick. But it's I've always said, in to win a battle in the war, you need, yes, good generals, but the most important thing is the soldiers on the field. And this is
yes.
why I've always made it a devoir for me when I do site visits to see who are the people actually doing the work.
Yeah.
It's good to have a great general,
But you're very involved too.
but
I
you
mean,
need
you're at
need
the
to have the
mining
good
stuff.
soldiers, the foot
Yeah.
soldiers doing the work on the ground.
Yeah. But you're very, what I mean is you're very involved too, because I know that you go to all like the breakfast mining stuff, and you're very involved in these things. So you really get to see them. You're not just talking. You're seeing these people. You're talking to Francois. You're out there. It's you're very active as well, and that's really cool. That's why I love having you on the show, because you're extremely active out there. You know exactly what you're talking about, and that's just
Well, Albert,
awesome.
the last time we saw each other on the field was New Brunswick. Hopefully, we'll be able to repeat sooner than
Well,
later.
Puma.
Puma Exploration Gold Project in the central New Brunswick. They
Yeah.
are also drilling, which I
Okay.
think in this sort of context right now is, you look
Marcel
at the
Robillard,
companies. Marcel Rabillard, exactly.
CEO.
Puma.
Nice, nice, nice guy. Nice guy.
Dominique
And they're
Gagné, who's
working
the VP
hard
of
on their
Ex.
project.
Yeah, Dominique Gagné was the VP of
That's
Exploration.
right. Yeah.
They've got geos working for them,
Yeah.
and then they've got their chairman, Régent Gosselin,
Régent Gosselin. Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
call the El Pape, the Pope. But yeah,
Oh, it was
you mentioned Robert Wares, and I think one of the
oh,
big strength of Brunswick is the quality of the management team and the
absolutely.
quality of the technical team,
Yeah.
and put that all together, and the fact that they've developed a recipe where they're able to quickly look at areas, say this is of interest,
Yes.
send a crack commando team there, first assessment. If there's something interesting, they're able to go back there,
Yes.
and they've got this mythology where they're able to quickly say, hey, this is worthwhile to pursue. And if it's not, they close the door and they go into
Yeah,
do something else, which
exactly.
I think that's how you have to do exploration.
And that's why for them to even have another summer drilling at Mirage, it just says everything. And then we have the Elnron and the Atacals and all these other places. But you know what? We can talk about that another time.
Yeah. Well,
Eric.
you mentioned other places. I mean, you saw that they're going to Greenland. I just mentioned it.
Yeah. Oh, I
I
saw that.
was
Oh,
I
yeah.
was fortunate to go there a few years back to see a gold project, but I am not totally versed on the Greenland geology, but I know for me that's like the next frontier.
Oh,
And what I love about it is that it's still it's 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 the new frontier in the sense that it's relatively well known. The Danish geologists have worked on it, the Scandinavian geologists, and we have some ideas of the geology. But in terms of, if you ask me, what parts of the world are like the next sort of
the next
areas that could
frontier.
light up, I think Greenland, yes. And then, the mythology here, or the plan is, you stay not too far from the coast. Greenland is remote, but when you think of it, if you do stumble on something very important and you're not too far away from, the tide water,
Yeah.
well, look at you, have a sort of infrastructure that you put directly your commodity or your concentrate on the boat, and you can ship it back down to Bécancour, and Quebec government will have our battery factories and will
Yeah.
willingly accept some stuff from Glen, which is not too far.
That's not too far. No, I completely
And they
agree.
might be able to stop on the Labrador shore, pick up some stuff, get
Yeah.
down to Sept-Îles, pick up some more stuff. So,
We
it's
have all the
win-win-win.
possibilities here. Absolutely. We have all
Exactly.
possibilities. Well, Eric, you know what? I appreciate the time that you spent with us. I mean, do you have any last things for any of the viewers out there to say?
No, I'm just going to wish everybody a happy spring and a good beginning of the summer, and be
Yeah,
careful out there.
that's right.
And again, do your due diligence when it's time to do it.
Awesome. All right. So for all the viewers out there, always remember to research, prepare, plan, and execute what you're doing. All right. Stay strong, everyone. Thanks a lot, Eric. You're awesome. Can't wait to see it. Can't wait to have you back on the show again.
Au revoir, tout le monde. Bye bye.
Au revoir.
Between Plays, it's the journey and what you do between where you are and where you want to be. Research, prepare, plan, and execute your strategy. Do your DD and stay strong in visualizing and achieving your goals. Our strategy is unique since 2020. An original concept imitated, never duplicated. Real conversations with media influencers, educational and expert speakers, analysts and consultants. Between Plays, bridging the gap between companies and investors.